Well, TikTok. Let's start our podcast today. We always like to say on This is Manitoba that we cover your news, what matters to you in Manitoba in 20 minutes or less. But today, we're actually talking about TikTok and something that's happening with a proposed ban in the States that could be coming, and that's affecting people all over the world. So I am Marcy Markusa, and I'm here with Adeyemi, who's our morning show technician. But Abby's actually here on the pod today to weigh in because I don't use TikTok, but you do.
I am actively on TikTok, and
you have thoughts on this ban.
I have thoughts. You see fellow TikTok users and creators really making they're creating awareness about this big thing that will or will not happen come January 20. And you see the buzz on the other side of the world and like, what's up? Why is the government really having issues with TikTok?
So the view, in your opinion, on this proposed ban in North America might look slightly different from what you think the view is from people in other parts of the world.
Take Nigeria as example, just Africa as example. We have lots of creators on the continent there. They are like not really in support of this ban, and they're like, it's like every other app you have on your phone. You always, a lot of people don't even read the fine print. They just accept it's going somewhere. Somewhere has your data, but the government's saying someone is spying on you, another country is spying on you. A lot of the creators are like, hey, wait a minute, nobody's really spying on us, and it's already creating that buzz of migrating elsewhere to a competing app from the same region.
So I guess the point here is they're saying that they're doing this proposed ban, and Canada actually has some similar concerns we're going to hear in the podcast today. But because they're worried about your safety, and as you said, about different countries interacting, and these are the owners of these apps, Chinese-owned app, TikTok. But a lot of things that we use are Chinese-owned. For example, before we move to our interview here, people are migrating to something called Red Note. And
I checked it out.
Okay.
And I saw one TikTok, I can't remember her name, and she was like, wait a minute, my government, she's from the United States, and she goes, oh, my government doesn't really want me to know what's going on in China. These guys are welcoming us. Look at this cute little Chinese car. It's cute, and it comes in pink, and I can get it for $10,000. But my government is not letting me see all of this, and creators are like, a lot of creators migrating there are more like showcasing cultures from that part of the world now.
So the whole point here is the U.S. government might ban TikTok. People are migrating to Red Note, but guess who owns Red Note? It's a Chinese-run app. So people are already migrating. They're already moving. There's a bigger discussion here. We're going to walk through all these details. That's where we're starting our podcast. And we're starting the podcast with Avery Swartz. Avery Swartz is a technology consultant to weigh in on, what is going to be potentially happening next. And just to revisit the date here, the Chinese-owned app TikTok could be banned in the United States as early as January 19th. Well, good morning.
Good morning.
So where do things stand right now for the platform that is staring down this January 19th deadline?
Okay, so we've got to go back to this law that came into effect in April of last year that said that the U.S. government has the authority to ban foreign-owned apps that are deemed to be a threat to national security. That law said that TikTok, because it's owned by a Chinese company called ByteDance, and in China, the responsibility of companies is to pledge loyalty to the People's Republic of China, kind of over and above any loyalties to customers or shareholders. The national security force in America suggests that there is a threat from TikTok to surveil and collect data on Americans, to spread misinformation, sway public opinion. So they said, hey, TikTok, you've got a deadline. January 19, 2025, you decide. You either sell off your U.S. operations to an American buyer, or if you haven't done so by that date, you're going to be banned in this country.
Now, I want to go right, Avery. I know there's a lot of other questions, but I want to go straight to this one because the reality is already in the face of this January 19th date, people are already left. And a lot of them, of course, the reason this is ironic is because they've gone to another Chinese-owned social media platform. And this is called Red Note. So can you tell us, what your thinking is here in terms of why people have chosen that one and how ironic this is?
Yes, it's deeply ironic that people are leaving TikTok or experimenting with RedNote. RedNote is a Chinese app. It is also owned by a Chinese company. It is number one in downloads right now in the American App Store in the social media category. It's been reported that there are hundreds of thousands of American users that have signed up for RedNote just this week. For people that use TikTok, you will know that there has been a lot of talk amongst people on TikTok that's basically saying like, hey guys, if we get shut down here, where are we all going next? Where's the after party? And so they are all moving over to RedNote. Now, could RedNote also be shut down in the States the exact same way that TikTok is? Yes. It poses all of the exact same threats to national security. Will that happen? I don't know. I also don't know if TikTok itself is going to be shut down this weekend. It has been challenged in the courts. There is a hearing that is still outstanding with the Supreme Court. They met for a hearing last Friday. They have not come back with their answer yet. They're still deliberating. Also, we got to remember, if TikTok gets banned on Sunday, what happens on Monday? Well, it's Trump's inauguration. Trump's incoming national security advisor, Michael Waltz, told the press yesterday that they are going to try and stop the ban of TikTok, probably through some sort of an executive order or by saying that, hey, we need a little bit more time to find a U.S. buyer. But, I personally think we're about 50-50 right now if it's even going to shut down this weekend.
Well, and then also, what's the impact of all those users who have already migrated? Then what does that mean, right, for the future, which we'll be talking about next week? Let's look at this through a Canadian lens before you leave. So what's the status of TikTok in Canada?
It's business as usual. If you're a Canadian TikTok user or a TikTok creator, you'll still be able to use the app as you have been through the weekend.
You just lost a whole bunch of followers.
But you lost a whole bunch of followers. You also might have lost some people that you follow. The Canadian government is also concerned about this national security risk, the same way that the American government is. But the Canadian government hasn't gone so far as to say that its citizens that we are being banned from using the app. But the Canadian government did tell TikTok to get out of the country. They said, you cannot have offices here. You have to close your office in Toronto and close your office in Vancouver because of our concern. Of course, ByteDance is fighting that. We're going to see exactly how that plays out. But I have no insider knowledge, but I have strong suspicions that the PMO, whoever's meeting in the PMO these days, is keeping a close eye on what's happening with TikTok through this weekend and into next week as regards to the American ban. All
right, Avery, thank you very much for this.
Thank you.
That is technology consultant Avery Swartz in our conversation about TikTok. We will see what happens. Well, the time is not ticking for the future of a hotel in Winnipeg, and that is because it's gone. Next on the podcast, let's talk about the Sutherland Hotel on Main Street. It went up in flames. Some see this as another empty building, on Main Street, a vacant building that burned, and they ultimately are now demolishing at the time we're doing the podcast here. But for one Winnipegger, this place was much more than that. The hotel was built in 1882 in Winnipeg. It was first named the Cosmopolitan Hotel, and in 1907 it was renamed the Sutherland Hotel. Brad Bilenky knows all about it because he grew up there for a lot of years. His parents owned the Sutherland for about 11 years. Here's what he had to say about what it was like in its heyday. Morning, Brad.
Good morning. How are you, Marcy?
I'm well. So tell me a little about, you had a FaceTime call with your family when you found out about the fire. What was it like?
Yeah, my niece actually went down to the site while it was still active around 7 o'clock the night before. And so my brothers and I were on that. And it's bittersweet. It's heartbreaking. My formative years there were, from 10 to about 18. And I just remember the place in its glory days, right? It was a wonderful place. We had a lot of regulars who stopped in the establishment, and it was just a very family place in a lot of respects.
So paint us a picture of this. So your mom and dad bought it in the late 70s, I understand. Yeah. And so it was the kind of place, I understand, that offered a straight razor shave, right?
Yeah, there was an active barbershop right in the entranceway. Then there was the vendor. There was a restaurant next that was attached with it. And you probably got the best Greek burger you could have on the Strip anywhere. And then
why was that? There was a restaurant in there owned by a family that
a Greek family that owned it. Yeah, well, we owned the restaurant, but they managed it.
Cool.
Yeah, it was fantastic. And like Fridays and Saturday nights, they would have polka bands on there. So you had Mike Domish, who's from a lot of the old timers would remember the Mike Domish band. So the place was packed right to the point that on a Saturday night, my mom worked the front door. She had the velvet rope, the whole bit, which sounds crazy when you think about where things are at this point in that area. But it was really quite something. We really, quite honestly, we never had the problems that a lot of these Main Street bars face right now. We never had security. We never had bouncers, that kind of thing. A lot of the locals were regulars. They just were working class heroes who stopped in, had a beer or two, and just wanted a nice quiet place to have a chill before they went home.
You remember, I understand, making friendships with people along the way, and I know you've also said that you always, people were always welcome to come and go, and it was, if police would stop in, and like very, very community on the ground.
Very much community on the ground. Like a lot of, I think there was a bit of a pushback for a police presence in any building on Main Street back in those days, right? But they were welcome. We wanted them there. So they would stop in for their breakfast or their lunch. We developed just so many long-term friendships as a result of that.
I heard you. I got to interject because I heard you describe this to one of our producers who was talking to you and booking you for the show. It was kind of like Cheers.
And very much so, and very, very much so. My dad was a grumpy old kind of guy, so he probably would have been the old guy, and my brother would have been the dashing Ted Danson.
Obviously, you watched this, go up in flames. How did you find out the Sutherland was burning?
Friends contacted us immediately, just letting us know what was going on, and so I went on the news cycle right away, and I was just shocked to see the amount of flames and everything like that. And I knew that this was probably the end for the building because it was all brick and wood in there. There was, I know there was apparently someone looking into purchasing it to revitalize it. But really that old building, it would have been very difficult to really revitalize it properly. So I think that, it's bittersweet. I'm very sad to see it go because driving by, you have those memories of mom and dad, my brother working behind the bar, those kind of things are gone, right? But on the other end of the coin, I'm very excited and optimistic for that Point Douglas area. I think that whoever goes in and develops that area, that area needs a facelift and they need a positive community moving forward. And I think those hotels have seen their day. You know what I mean?
Just last, paint us a picture of what it physically looked like in there. Like I don't know why I'm imagining red carpet, but like, what was it colorful? Was it, you know what I mean? Like, what did it look like? How big were the rooms and all that stuff?
Well, I'm going to get in trouble here because I think it was red carpet, but I don't know. It's been so long, 30 odd years or more. But you'd enter. There was a little room that had the barber shop where, again, like they did straight razors and haircuts. To the left was the restaurant itself. The bar itself had a stage where, again, country bands would play. And upstairs we didn't have tenants that were renting by the day. It was mostly month to month. And we had really good tenants even back then, right? So there was one fellow I mentioned to your producer. His name's Bill. He was a dynamiter who would go up north, blast holes in the mines, and then come back. But he had no wife, no kids, no family whatsoever. So we really, mom and dad and my brother, became his extended family. And so much so, and he got paid very well as well. So at one time I came back and he goes, it's very cold, like very much like we were dealing with today. And he goes, come on, we're going to go shopping. And so he took my mom and my sister-in-law and bought them fur coats at the fur store.
I love all those stories from back in the day. Thank you so much for outlining it and also talking about your hopes for Main Street going forward.
Thank you so much for your time.
That's Brad Bilenky. His parents owned the Sutherland for about 11 years, and of course now it is no more. It's quite something, Abby. I know you've been in that area taking pictures, not of the Sutherland, but of a nearby hotel.
Yeah, the nearby hotel, and I'm like being forced to go back to see if I immortalized the Sutherland Hotel in one of the photos I took, because I know I was on the streets and I was taking a lot of photos on that stretch because they are like on the same block. And I remember this pretty building with a lot of murals on it, and I had that in focus. But I'll go check if I immortalized the Sutherland Hotel somewhere on my photos.
You might have it in the background, because what you're talking about is the New West Hotel, which is pretty much in that same block. And as you said, people who are listening, and if you're in Winnipeg and you've driven down Main Street there, that's the building that the entire thing was created by 9 different artists. It's black and white, and the whole thing, the New West Hotel, is just covered in this really cool mural. So maybe you've got the Sutherland snapped in the background.
Somewhere.
Yeah, we'll have a look. Thank you for having a listen today to This Is Manitoba. Don't forget to like and share.